Hey everyone, Andrika here and welcome back to my channel. Finally, this week we got to try out the new mega dungeon coming with patch 10.1.5 called Dawn of the Infinite. This is actually very huge. We get to experience it and see the boss fights themselves, the mechanics, the art, the whole thing, so let's get to it. I've already streamed it on Twitch if you want to take a look at the full playthrough, but in this video I'll combine the most important stuff and I'll share with you what were my first impressions. First of all, the entrance is located at the temporal conflux near the bronze Oathstone, so you can probably expect quite a few time shenanigans and whatnot. Loading screen is 10 out of 10. We also get to have Chromie and Nozdormu as our guides, so you know it's gonna be a good one. Everything that involves Chromie is usually blast. The first room you enter has some nice architecture in it. Well, to be honest, the whole dungeon looks pretty awesome, and you'll see in a bit how cool it looks when you actually go outside and watch the skybox of it. The first boss we get to fight is Chronicar, a commander of the infinite Dragonflight. We don't have anything major here other than the fact that it's best to stack together so you can properly place the golden pools on top of each other. You really don't want to waste more space than you have to, so position is key here. Care when he does Ion Shatter to avoid the golden spikes, and yeah, that's it. That's a pretty straightforward and easy boss to deal with, and I mean it's the first boss of the dungeon, so it kinda makes sense. Once the first boss is killed, you will go through your first portal and get outside. I mean, look, it looks so cool. You can mount here too, that's very nice, especially Mythic Plus, you can repair. It's very convenient. This very first platform here is where the second boss will spawn. You must clear the ads first and then he will spawn. The second boss is called Manifested Time Waste, and as you can tell, it has a lot of abilities revolving around time. Even the platform itself is rotating into timelines. You get the accelerating and decaying time, which you can utilize for the chronofade ability. Basically everything that stays inside the accelerating time will go a lot faster, and what's in the decaying time, it will travel much slower, including the orbs that you need to avoid down the line. So I previously said that we need to utilize the timelines here in order to deal with the chronofade debuff. This is going to be a debuff that the boss is gonna target on one player, and when it falls off either from dispel or if it expires, you will release a big wave. If you are in the slow area, the circle will expand slower, but if you are in the accelerating area, then the chronofade circle will expand faster. And apparently he will target multiple people with it, so you need to time them a bit sparse so you can have time to heal them. It actually feels like Elisande 2.0, but a bit more boring as there's no double BL here. That's the only exception. Now actually, it also reminds me of the second boss of Night Hall. After defeating the second boss, you go into this portal and you teleport through the time waste to reach the main platform. It feels so airy and awesome. I mean, you get teleported via bronze dragon mount, which fits with the whole dungeon theme. And yeah, I mean, I love it. It's so cool and it gets me excited. There's 3 portals here at the main platform for the next 3 bosses, and you can even see where the location of the other bosses is. Next boss is the Blight of Galakrond, and we have another change of scenery to spice things up. There's a lot of necrotic energy here, the kind we used to see very often at Maldraxxus, which, you know, indicates undead, corrupted magic, all that. And they do all scream Galakrond, decay, and the corruption he had from eating his fellow dragons. In fact, this room is actually right beneath the corpse of Galakrond, which is pretty awesome itself. So the boss is going to be this ooze, but he will take control of each lying dead dragon around. In fact, these dragons come back to life from necrotic energies dripping from Galakrond's own corpse, which, to remind you, is lying above us. So, I mean, that's pretty epic. One interesting ability that stood here is Corrosion. Both will apply Corrosion to one player, and it gets increasingly harmful the longer it stays on. You can transfer this debuff when you come in contact with another player, so this is like a hot potato situation. At least on PTR, 5 to 6 stacks were quite hurtful and we had to give it away. I think that's pretty cool mechanic to deal with, and yeah, we have to wait and see if they're gonna change it, if they're gonna nerf it or whatever, but for now 5 to 6 stacks were more than enough. After defeating the boss, we get to meet up with the aspects, but not in the form we currently know them. Nope, that's from when they were still young proto-drakes, and yeah, we've got Ysera, Malikos, even Eltharion, and yeah, Alexstrasza and nozdormu are there, which are still alive out of the 5 OG ones. That's a pretty cool moment to witness. Apparently we find out that Iridikron is working together with the Infinite, so that's bad news, and we try to put a stop to him. Iridikron is the 4th boss, I reckon the final boss of the first wing of this dungeon, when it's later divided into 2 parts for Mythic Plus. Final boss, that means only one thing, he's going to be probably a bit complicated and difficult to deal with. And oh boy, he was. I will only say one thing, we have 3 wipes, and yeah, he was the first obstacle of this dungeon. He has mechanics that will definitely one-shot you if you don't pay attention. Even the tank. In this fight, Chromie plays an important part, and you will need her help in order to survive a few abilities. Iridikron will target a player with an extinction blast, and that player must go into Chromie's bubble in order to survive. Chromie will take the damage instead, and then we need to soak her up and heal her. Obviously, if Chromie dies, it's a game over. There is some spikes to avoid as well, a big circle to avoid, a frontal cone, and he will apply 5 circles to us, which upon expiration also spawn adds, so we have to deal with them as well. Iridikron's energy will steadily increase as the fight goes on, and when it reaches 100 energy he will cast Cataclysmic Obliteration. The only way to mitigate this is again inside Chromie's bubble, and how nice of her, she also gave us a pretty big haste and DPS boost. So that's probably the ideal time to pop your BL. At around 85% the fight ends, so yeah, we didn't manage to kill him. So that's definitely not the last we're gonna see of him. After defeating him, we go outside again, this time to battle Tyr. There's adds to kill before reaching Tyr, but we gotta be stuck here for whatever reason. There was a bug, apparently, and we missed out most of the adds. There is one annoying piece of mob here though, a mini-boss called Spurlock, I think? He will target the player and keep pulling him into a sandstorm. If the player reaches that sandstorm, he gets out of sight and we cannot heal him or help him anymore. So pretty much it's gonna one-shot that person if he gets to sandstorm. That's where the pillar comes into play. You need to lose it if you get targeted. So yeah, kind of interesting, but a bit frustrating. Once the mini-boss is killed, Tyr will appear, there's a bit of RP here, and then you get to fight him. Tyr is actually an easy boss to deal with. There's some avoidable damage, like the cone in front of him, and stay a bit loosely spread. Also, make sure to pick up the orbs during this Siphon Oathstone phase, as they give haste and movement boost. And they do stack up to 5, so yeah, don't forget to do that. Soak the Dividing Strike on top of the boss, and yeah, that's pretty much it about Tyr. Nice boss fight, easy, as it's probably the first boss of this second wing. And now we get to the second obstacle of this journey, this room. Yeah, you need to avoid the frontal cone attacks from the mobs and reach to the other side. If you get hit by those cone attacks, you will get teleported back to the start of this room and you have to start again. Luckily, once a person manages to reach the other side, there is a temporal rift that you can enable. It has a 10-second casting time, if I'm not wrong, and then people can teleport here. There is basically a rift before the room and after the room, so it's kind of like a checkpoint. It was fun, but it can be quite frustrating, especially Mythic Plus. The next boss will depend on your route. You get to choose if you want to go to Morchie or the faction-specific boss. We tried to give a go at Morchie, but she was a bit annoying, so we tried Grommash instead. If you are Alliance, you're gonna fight with Anduin, but I cannot give any comment on that as I didn't manage to fight him. I can tell you about Grommash, which was quite easy. The only thing we had to care is Bladestorm, which seems to moving towards a player. Just avoid that, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's quite easy. Now we only have Morchie left, and then the last boss. Morchie is basically the evil alternate version of our Chromie, and let me tell you, she's a real bad news. We had a couple of wipes here too. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a fun boss to fight, but it can be quite frustrating. Some things to keep in mind: don't stand behind the tank as she casts Sunblast. Well, in general, you shouldn't stand behind the tank, like never, but especially in this case. One of her most important abilities is that she summons more versions of herself, fake ones, and you need to find who's the real one. You only got a few seconds before she starts casting Dragon Breath, which is coming out from the real morchie, so you need to stand behind her in order to avoid it. If you're wondering how one can find the real morchie, well, that's easy. You need to pay attention to her head. This ability is a bit reminiscent of Barrot and Scholomance. The fake morchies, maybe? I mean, I don't know what's the plural of that. Anyway, the fake ones will have a head accessory. So like a hat, bunny ears, some mechanical thingy, or any other kind of accessory. The real one will not have anything on her head. It's this natural blue hair she's got going on. If you get hit by the breath, it hurts quite a lot. She applies a nasty debuff dot on you which lasts 7 seconds. It is healable in Mythic 0, but probably not on hierarchies or tyrannical weeks. We might see some weak auras that might help us, but you must be real fast for this. After the Dragon Breath, she's going to cast time traps, and you need to utilize those traps for the next ability coming up, called Familiar Faces. She's going to summon a copy of the players, and that copy is gonna fixate the player. So your copy is gonna fixate on you. So you basically have to kite them at the time traps in order to capture them. It's an easy ability, but it can be real hurtful if you forget about it. I mean, look how much damage it does when it gets to you. And the copy seems to spawn on top of you, so you might get 1 or 2 hits. Honestly, a very cool fight, but it can be a real pain in the ass if you don't pay attention on those 2 major abilities. I mean, it can be a key breaker, this boss. And with that, we have arrived to the final boss encounter, Chronolor Dios. The final boss is at the same room where you defeated Galakron previously. That took a while to figure out, we got lost a bit.
So 5 minutes later,
we managed to regroup with the aspects and we arrived at Dios, the final boss. Let's see if we're gonna kill him this time. Okay, so Dios is going to spawn a few ads that you need to deal with. You also need to soak the floating orbs so they don't go big boom, because that's gonna hurt. And oh, I just realized that the aspects are helping us as well here, so that's pretty cool. I mean, it kinda makes sense, right? That's how we managed to kill him. He has so much million health. They're probably doing the biggest DPS here. So on 30%, he gets a bit frustrated, this boss, and starts spawning stuff on the ground. So that's a bit of a softened range. You must kill him before you run out of space to move. And that's it. We apparently do kill him. Look at that. The loot table hasn't been implemented yet, so I cannot comment on that. Honestly, I think this is one of the best mechan dungeons we have ever got. There's so much lore to delve into, interesting boss fights, mechanics, chromie, nozdormu, all that. It's a pretty awesome dungeon. I love the architecture, how you can move from one place to another, passing through these massive clocks in the sky. I'm very excited to try this out on Mythic Plus, because I mean, that's how we get to experience the dungeons these days. But that will probably come later during 10.2, so we still got a bit of time until then. The good thing is that it's going to be available on 10.1.5 in Mythic difficulty, and I bet it's going to drop a decent eye level gear too. So yeah, we're probably gonna try it then. That's all I have to share about this dungeon. I would love to know what are your thoughts. Do you like it? Do you like the boss fights, the ads, the whole architecture of it? Would you like to see something different with the infinites? I mean, lore-wise, this is a huge dungeon. I mean, we get to fight a freaking incarnate and probably the most powerful of them all, Iridicron. We do also find important members of the Infinites. We get to kill Dios. Infinites have been long rivals of the 5 major Dragonflights, so that's a huge win, I think. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching my content, and please make sure to drop a like if you have found this video enjoyable. If you want to support my channel, please take a moment to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You can also find me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/AndrikasGames, where I'm mostly streaming World of Warcraft. Good luck with whatever you are doing, and I will see you all on the next one. Bye!